Ready for a deep dive that takes us way back?
I'm ready.
Let's crack open 1 Samuel.
Okay.
Chapters 1, 2, 3.
All right.
We're going to explore Hannah.
Oh, yeah, Hannah and Samuel.
And her son Samuel.
Two great figures.
And you'll see how even though their experiences happened centuries ago,
Right.
they still really speak to us today about faith,
Absolutely.
about longing, and just the courage to truly listen.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that
Yeah.
we're going to encounter two different forms of listening.
Oh, okay.
Hannah's listening to her heart
Mm-hmm.
and to God.
Okay.
And Samuel learning to decipher
Yeah.
God's voice.
A young boy.
Yeah.
All right, so first let's picture ourselves back in Hannah's world.
Okay.
She wants a child more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, being unable to conceive,
Right.
it wasn't just a personal heartbreak.
No.
It was a huge social stigma.
Yeah. It's important to remember
Yeah.
that in ancient Israel, a woman's worth
Mm-hmm.
was often really tied to her ability to bear children, especially sons,
Yeah,
who would inherit property and carry on the family name.
right. So it wasn't just a private pain.
Yeah.
It was very public.
Yeah, like a mark against her.
Against her status.
In the community.
Yeah, and then to make things worse,
Oh, yeah.
she has to deal with Peninnah,
Right.
who seems to just enjoy rubbing salt in the wound.
She does.
Imagine having to deal with
I
that
know, it's awful.
from someone who's supposed to be family.
Yeah. Yeah, the text really highlights her cruelty.
What does it say?
It says she provoked her severely
Oh, wow.
to make her miserable.
So this wasn't just like casual teasing.
No, this was a deliberate attempt to
Right.
undermine Hannah.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to those complex family dynamics.
Right.
When you have societal pressures and personal insecurities all mixed in.
So Hannah is caught in all of this.
Yeah.
Societal expectations,
Mhm.
heartache,
Yeah,
and she turns to prayer.
makes sense.
It's like the only source of comfort she has left.
Yeah.
And we're talking intense emotion poured out to God.
Oh, yeah.
A silent plea that's so powerful
It's powerful.
that it actually gets misinterpreted.
The scene with Eli, the priest,
Yeah.
mistaking her prayer for drunkenness.
Oh, wow.
It's so striking.
It
It
is.
shows how easily we misjudge people.
Based on outward appearances,
Yeah,
Eli should be attuned to spiritual matters,
he should.
but he totally misses the depth of Hannah's anguish
Totally.
and the sincerity of her plea.
Yeah,
Makes you think.
it does.
How often do we do that?
Yeah, jump to conclusions
Yeah.
just based on what we see
Yeah.
without understanding what's going on inside.
Right, and that's what the writer is getting at.
I think so.
God sees what's hidden.
He does.
He sees those cries of the heart.
Yeah.
And in Hannah's case, that heartfelt plea
Yeah.
does not go unanswered.
It does not.
And that's where the story takes a turn,
Okay.
toward joy.
Tell me more.
Her prayer is answered.
Yes.
She gives birth to a son,
And she names him,
Samuel,
which means...
heard by God.
I love that.
It's a testament to prayer,
It is.
even silent prayer.
Especially that.
What's even more remarkable is how Hannah responds.
What does she do?
She doesn't just go back to her life.
No.
She makes a decision
Okay.
out of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and faith.
Okay.
She dedicates Samuel back to God,
Wow.
fulfilling a vow she made.
She's like, this child is a gift,
Yeah.
a miracle,
Yeah.
and I'm giving him back to the one who made it all possible.
Exactly. And it's not just a private matter.
No.
She expresses it in a song.
Oh, wow.
And her song goes beyond just her personal joy.
It does.
It speaks to anyone who's ever felt marginalized or overlooked.
And I think that's where her story
Yeah.
connects with a lot of us.
You don't have to be facing infertility
Right.
to relate to those feelings.
Of being unseen.
Yeah.
Of carrying burdens that others just don't get.
Her song is an anthem
It is.
for the underdog. It's a declaration that God sees the humble,
He does.
the marginalized,
Yeah.
the ones that society pushes aside.
And it's not just about acknowledging their pain.
Right.
It's about God's power
Yeah.
to overturn circumstances,
Yes.
to lift up the lowly,
Okay.
to challenge injustice.
So how does she say all of that?
Well, there's this image of a horn being lifted high,
Okay.
which symbolized strength and victory.
Oh.
It's like she's saying that God takes those who are seen as weak
Mm-hmm.
and empowers them.
To rise above.
Yes. And then there's this contrast she draws
Oh, yeah.
between the proud and the humble. God humbles the arrogant
Yeah.
and exalts those who are considered insignificant.
It's like she's turning everything upside down,
Totally.
reminding everyone that true worth
Right.
isn't determined by human standard.
Yeah, it's by God.
And that message still resonates today.
Oh, yeah.
We're obsessed with status and achievement,
Totally.
and outward appearances. But her song challenges us to look beyond that.
To recognize the inherent dignity that everyone has in God's eyes.
So we've got this woman who has poured out her heart to God,
Yes.
experienced a miracle, and now she's singing this song of praise.
About justice.
Yes.
Divine intervention.
The power of God.
It's a powerful reminder that even in pain, there's potential for transformation.
Not just for ourselves,
but for the world.
That's a good point.
Hannah's story invites us to think, how can our experiences of suffering become catalysts for something bigger?
That's a profound question.
It is.
And it leads us right into the next part of our deep dive,
Samuel.
where we meet Samuel.
Yes.
And see how his journey of listening unfolds.
And his journey begins right where Hannah's reaches its climax.
In the temple.
That's right.
But Hannah's listening was a pouring out.
It was.
To God.
Yeah.
Samuel's is a different.
He has to tune in.
Okay.
To a voice outside of himself.
That will shape his destiny.
And the fate of a nation.
Wow. Welcome back.
Hey.
We just left Hannah dedicating Samuel to God's service.
At the temple.
In the temple. That place where you feel the divine.
Yeah.
But now we're shifting to Samuel.
Okay.
A young boy growing up in the shadow of the altar.
Right, where his mom poured out her soul.
Right.
And you have to imagine, this isn't just any temple.
What do you mean?
This is a time when the priesthood is starting to lose its way.
Oh, wow.
Led by Eli.
Okay.
They're drifting from true devotion.
So young Samuel is surrounded by this.
He is.
Rituals, but also the cracks in the system.
Yeah, the failings of those in charge.
Right. It's a fascinating backdrop.
It is.
Because it makes you wonder, how does true faith grow? Not just through structures, but through genuine connection with God.
Yeah, even when those around you are faltering.
And that's where listening comes in.
Absolutely.
It's not just about hearing words.
It's about discerning a voice.
Yes.
Amidst all the distractions.
Imagine you're Samuel.
Okay, I'm Samuel.
You hear a voice calling your name.
Oh, yeah.
But you think it's Eli.
Right.
It takes Eli's wisdom.
It does.
To help him realize it's something different.
Something extraordinary.
It makes me think.
Yeah.
Who are the Eli figures in our lives today?
Oh, that's a good question.
He can help us.
Yeah, guide us.
Discern those whispers of guidance.
Yeah, sometimes it's a mentor. The spiritual guide.
Yeah.
Someone who sees something in us that we don't.
But it also takes being open.
It does.
To being surprised.
Yeah.
By where that guidance might come from.
Samuel's response is so simple.
What is it?
Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.
But how do we even create space to hear that?
In this world full of distractions.
Right, we're constantly bombarded.
We are.
By noise and information?
It takes intentionality.
So what do?
You have to carve out time for silence.
Okay.
For reflection.
Yeah.
Disconnect from the external.
And reconnect with our inner compass.
That's it.
It's like hitting pause.
Yeah.
On all the input.
And just being open to the possibility.
That something beyond us might be trying to reach us.
And Samuel's willingness to listen leads to something much bigger than himself.
He becomes a conduit for a message that shapes history.
A message of judgment and hope.
It's a weighty message.
It's
for a young boy.
Right. He's warning Eli.
About his family's unfaithfulness.
It reminds us that listening to God sometimes means being a messenger.
Even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard.
And it challenges us.
To ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Are we willing to be truth tellers?
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it challenges authority.
Samuel's example shows us.
Right.
That true faith
isn't
blind obedience.
No.
It's about aligning ourselves with God's values.
Even when they're countercultural.
And there's a parallel here with Hannah.
How so?
She challenged the status quo with her song.
She did.
Now her son Samuel is holding those in power accountable.
It's like her fierce faith is passed down.
Faith isn't passive.
It's not.
It has the power to disrupt, to challenge.
Yes.
To speak truth to power.
Absolutely.
So we're seeing listening.
Yeah.
Not as just a personal thing.
But as something that has consequences.
That can call out injustice.
And shake up complacency.
Which brings us to what are the messages we're called to deliver today?
What injustices do we see?
What truths do we hold that need to be heard?
Those are some weighty questions.
They are.
Especially given Samuel's message.
Yeah, it speaks of judgment.
He does.
Consequences for straying from righteousness.
But even within the judgment,
there's
hope.
What do you mean?
God's desire isn't to punish, but to restore.
Right.
To bring people back to him.
It's like that saying.
Oh, it's that.
God disciplines those he loves.
That's it.
It's not about condemnation.
But redirection.
Yeah, getting us back on track.
And that brings us back to Hannah's song.
Oh.
Which, despite the hardships, is a song of praise and gratitude.
It reminds us.
Even amidst challenges, there's joy in knowing God is working.
Don't lose sight of the blessings.
Right.
Even when things get tough.
Cultivate gratitude.
Yeah.
Even when faced with difficult truths.
Because that gratitude
fuels our trust.
Yeah.
Our ability to keep listening.
So we've journeyed from Hannah's conversation with God
to Samuel's encounter with a voice that shapes his destiny.
And we've seen how listening is more than just passively receiving information.
It's about engaging with what we hear, wrestling with truth.
And letting it shape us.
Absolutely.
Wrapping up our deep dive into 1 Samuel chapters 1 through 3.
Yeah.
I'm struck by how these stories still feel so relevant.
Oh, yeah.
We saw Hannah's longing.
Right.
Her journey of faith.
And her song.
Her song of praise.
Powerful.
Then we shifted to Samuel.
Right. Learning to listen.
To God's voice.
And delivering that tough message.
To Eli.
Yeah. And it's amazing how their stories are connected.
What do you mean?
Well, Hannah dedicating Samuel to God.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for his calling.
It's like her surrender.
Yeah, born out of her own pain.
Led to him stepping into this huge role.
That shaped a nation.
It really makes you think about choices.
It does.
How something we do might have implications we can't even imagine.
Absolutely. And Hannah's story reminds us that sometimes the biggest acts of faith come from a place of vulnerability when we acknowledge our need for God.
And those acts can impact generations.
They can.
It's like planting a seed that grows into something amazing.
And for Samuel, that seed becomes a life of ministry.
A life of listening.
And speaking.
So it challenges us.
To think about what it means.
To really listen to God.
In our own lives.
Yeah. Is it always a clear message?
Or is it sometimes a nudge?
A whisper?
Or even circumstances that push us?
And how do we even know if it's God?
Or just our own desires?
It's a tough question.
It's a process. It is.
Of discernment.
And we need help.
We do.
Like Samuel had Eli.
Yeah. To guide him.
We need those Eli figures.
To help us sift through the noise.
And even when we're confident we've heard God,
yeah,
it takes courage to respond.
Sometimes a lot of courage.
Especially if the message is difficult.
Or challenges people.
Look at Samuel. Yeah. He was just a boy.
Delivering a message of judgment.
To a leader.
To Eli.
It shows us
that faithfulness isn't always easy.
Yeah.
It might require us to speak truth to power.
To challenge injustice.
To stand up for what's right.
So what messages are we called to deliver?
That's what we need to ask.
What injustices need to be named?
What truths do we hold that need to be spoken?
Yeah.
And these questions remind me of Hannah's song.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, she talked about God overturning power structures. And now her son Samuel.
Yeah.
He's speaking truth to authority.
It's like this legacy of faith and courage. Passed down.
And it shows us that faith isn't passive.
No, it can disrupt things.
Challenge the way things are.
Be a catalyst for change.
And that change starts with listening.
It does.
Not just to ourselves.
But to God.
To a voice beyond our understanding.
That calls us to something bigger.
To align with God's heart.
For justice and mercy.
Leaving this deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm so inspired.
Me too.
We met these individuals.
Sure was.
The power of listening to God.
And responding to his call.
And their stories show us.
That God is still speaking.
Working in the world.
Inviting us to join him.
The question is, are we listening?
Are we willing to be like Samuel?
Brave enough to hear.
And to speak.
To be agents of change.
Because the world needs God's voice.
That's the challenge.
And the invitation.
To discern.
And to obey.
Knowing that even small acts of faith
can have a ripple effect.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
On this deep dive into 1 Samuel. Until next time.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
And keep listening.
For that voice that guides us.
To our purpose.
And invites us to be part of something bigger.